Editing in Camera Raw only is now a lot more easier due to the masking technique they brought in. But I'm just going to go through this image and show you some of the ideas. This image here, this highlight is the first thing that needs to be removed, and it's going to crop it out quickly. I'm just going to go custom on this, so it'll be an oblong image. The width is right. Stretch outwards. Removing that highlight is going to make a wealth of difference when we are in the stages looking to balance the image with ideas of light and dark. Must be honest, I prefer to use the cropping tool in Photoshop, but nonetheless, the image is now brought in, and let's go back and set it to auto so we can see what the normal way around this would be. It's going to go and set everything else to 0 as well. So inevitably, you need to have a good grasp on how to analyze an image to know what you want. If you're shooting with the light behind you can normally hit auto, and Photoshop gets it right 90% of the time. And here I'm going to eventually try and recreate what I saw in the day, and eventually that was a little bit cooler, so I'm going to probably take it down to 5,000, eventually flash tone, and you can see it brought the greens out quite extensively. I do think the greens are pushed as well in the adjustment. And once you have identified the parts that you want to work on, you'll find that it's going to be very easy utilizing the different tools that are available to mask. So we're going to start with evenly a luminance range, and we're going to pick up the highlights over here, the whites in there, and we're going to evenly adjust it a little bit so it's quite a narrow band that you're working on, and then we can go and with the first application of it start bringing those down, and then I'm going to now go to utilizing the color range because I've got different types of greens here, and I'm going to work on this dark green here to start off with. And once it's done, I can go and do the alteration. We can reset that, and I'm going to, when I pick up my whites, I inevitably go and always keep the contrast by taking the blacks down same percentage. That does vary though. And now I'm going to go over to a brush to sort that out. And here as well, I'm going to be using brushes. So every time you have a new idea, you even create a tool just for that. And this one here, the brush, I want to eventually get my exposure up on this. And remember I did say I'm going to balance it to off and just keep the shadows up so that when I do start painting in this area, it lights it up quite nicely, and I can get to see the detail that is in the was available to us on the day. Sometimes we can play very nicely and eventually end up with images way more processed than originally intended, and one I must be careful for that. Every time you see me go and click on new, even though I have a new idea that I now wish to go and enhance, and I'm looking at this rock over here, and I'm just going to eventually get the rock a bit brighter, but I'm going to now start working with these ones here to keep the texture of that rock. And then I'm going to zoom in a bit, probably about 50%, just to get to the rocks in the bottom there, and going to go back to the brush and continue brushing those areas which can be evenly better lit. And when I am this far zoomed in, I might suddenly go, oh, I need to do this as well because it's a good reflection. And when you are that zoomed in and it's problematic moving between the zoom and the brush, then evenly seize the moment while you are there and get it over and done with. and skirting across and continuing the idea of bringing a bit of detail into the dark shadow that we had. So you're going to start seeing the theme behind this is very much lightening and darkening parts of the image in relation to each other. So a lot of it's been handed down as a shadow painting, or discerning more in the image by highlighting or de-emphasizing parts by light or color. And still on the brush here, I'm going to just go Control Alt and see where I am lighting the rocks. I just missed these rocks still there. We're done when I did the top rock. It's quite nice with the scroll wheel on the mouse, but sure, it can be problematic if you forget about it. And you start scrolling away and eventually don't realize what you've done. And to continue the idea here, I'd want to cool that down, but we'll see when we get to that. Here I want to get the color up, so I'm going to go and you go back to the color mixer tool, because here I can actually go and work with that's a nice orange that, and you can see I have pushed the oranges up. Look what happens when I darken them, how they change in tone quite a bit. So that definitely did have an effect. And you can see the greens are pushed. So I just need to go and work on the light areas back here and start bringing out more detail. And going back to my brushes, just as long as you remember the rule that every time you need a new idea, you even will go and utilize a new brush and or tool to facilitate that idea, and continue on and on. Some images have multiple things you want to look at and get your viewer to look at. So some of these things do take a while. If you're more fluid with Camera Raw or Lightroom, they're the exact same application, and it's all about your workflow and getting your workflow to suit you and to be time effective as to allow you time to do what is important, far from only editing. And new brush, and you can use just something like, I just want to sharpen this detail of this one here. So what I'm going to do is just go to the clarity, maybe put a little bit of texture on it, and as soon as I paint that, you'll see it's starting to come into effect. So this can be quite precise because you're doing one thing per entry, and that does you to allow you to fine-tune parts of it. One must recall that lots of small edits will create a big difference, and then you've done the right thing. If you figured out you're doing a lot of editing, then you might realize that you should actually be probably reshooting it. Here I'm just going to go and punch some green highlights. I'm looking to try and get a bit of an extension on here. These ones over here, they're definitely giving a bit of depth so that the back looks deeper and more further away as we keep on moving this. And it's just amplifying what is already there. You're just going to go and evenly make the bright brighter and the dark darker, generally speaking. And let's see what the difference is between the two. You're going to see it actually is quite remarkable. What a couple of tools done in Photoshop can do in 5 minutes. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Remember, if it's a raw file, you can't damage it, play it to your heart's content. You can always reset the defaults and start again. So have no fear when it comes to Camera Raw. Your pictures are safe as long as you're shooting raw. Enjoy the rest of the day.